Hey guys, Ronin man here. Just walking around the park. It's a beautiful day. Hey girl. Little birds here. Nice, very nice day. Yeah, I want to talk about today about something that's a very serious topic, and that's men and shame. You know, I'm put a link in the comment section below about basically an article I read this morning, and what it is there's basically Pakistani-born females in Hong Kong are getting married on the internet, you know, meeting guys on the internet, to dudes in Pakistan, and they are importing them to Hong Kong and making them their slaves. So when they, for example, they get promised, you know, a first world life, and they're targeting very disenfranchised individuals, you know, so people in the, you know, the Pashtun area of Pakistan, you know, guys without much power, you know, really guys in weak position, and they're promising them, you know, a nice wife and a good life in Hong Kong. So the article, you can read it below. You really should read it, because it's funny, because these kind of articles never get published. This kind of article about women you see all the time, right? But you never see good things about guys, because guys are just too ashamed to even talk about this kind of stuff. And I think it's a thing that I don't have a solution. I'll just tell you, you know, about in this podcast. I don't have a strong feeling. I just want to open up the discussion and see what you guys think, and see if we can get somewhere with this discussion, because it's a tricky subject and it's difficult. It's really difficult for guys. But basically it's men and shame and how it can shape our lives. And these Pakistani guys, what they do is they move to Hong Kong, they get married, they have a wedding, everything's great, and then after the wedding it starts to get bad. You know, the women and their family, they take away the guy's passport, and they make him work as a slave in construction sites 6 days a week, you know, all day, all till late at night. And then they take all the earnings, and basically the guy supports the family in Hong Kong, is basically what happens. And you know, the guys, and this is the thing about guys, it's so weird, is even though they're getting totally screwed and it's just brutal, you know, they won't, even the guys interviewed won't go to the police, because of pride. Now granted, these guys are from Pakistan, and they're from a very poor part of Pakistan, but this is something, search in your heart, guys, search inside yourself. This is something every guy deals with. It's like pride and face and not wanting to look weak. I mean, why don't men report to the police a lot of things that girls do? A lot of it is because of pride, because we want to look strong. We don't want to look like weak, like we got taken advantage of by a girl. We never admit when things happen that make us look bad, you know, to the public. We don't like that. Women, on the other hand, what's made the women's movement so strong is that women have no problem with it. Women will say, hey, you know, I was weak, he took advantage of me, you know, like no problem, right? In fact, that's actually the modus operandi of women, to play the weak role, even if they're not in a weak role, even if they're not in a weak position. They realize the strength of being weak, and how it can, much like the masochist controls the sadist in an S&M relationship, because in a way, from behind the scenes, totally controls anybody who's knows anything about S&M. The M totally controls the S, and that's the same with every kind of situation. Women control men from behind the scenes, you know, and you don't have to be strong because you're earning the money. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're controlling the relationship, as you can see with your own family, your dad and your friends, and people in society. You know, the guy can be earning all the money, but the woman has totally got him under the thumb. Just out to dinner with the guy, and the guy is a multimillionaire. He's in his 20s, dating a attractive woman, and she totally controls him. You know, she wouldn't let him. Last night, wouldn't let him drink with dinner. I mean, like literally wouldn't let him. There's no way she was going to let him drink last night. And I mean, this guy's in his 20s, you know, and here he is on a, you know, vacation to Bangkok, and he can't drink any alcohol. You know, I mean, the guy's not an alcoholic. He's got no, you know what I mean? There's no problem. But she totally had him under her thumb. And that's like a typical situation I see like all the time when I'm out with guys. You see women totally controlling them. Now this woman doesn't even, that I know of, doesn't really make any money, doesn't have a job really. He's a multi-millionaire, he's in his late 20s, might be early 30s. But the guy's very, very smart and makes his money on the internet. Very, very successful. And looking like gonna be much more successful. So of course she gloms onto him and is gonna try to obviously marry him, controls his every move. In fact, when he was looking for apartments here in Bangkok, I showed him a really fabulous place. Actually the place that I filmed from the pool, really wonderful building. And he said, yeah, I said, you know, he said, I agree with you, that's like the best building. He said, but there's no way I can do it. I said, why is that? He said, because it's near all the clubs, you know. It's not a place for, he said, here's what he said, this is what he fucking said. He said, it's a place for a single guy. Now this is a dude in his late 20s, handsome, in good shape, multi-millionaire who's not married. He said that building he cannot take, even though he knows it's the best building in Bangkok for the price, but because it's made for a single guy. So what that means is that his woman totally controls where he lives, what he buys, everything about him is totally under her control. And I saw it last night when he wasn't able to drink alcohol because she didn't want him to drink. This is a guy who doesn't have a problem with alcohol. You know what I mean? This was just like it was just a blatant attempt to control his life. I see this all the fucking time, guys. You know? And why does he not say anything? I mean, this is a guy who, he's a tough guy, this guy. He can fight, he studies all kinds of martial arts. I mean, this guy he's muscular, you know what I mean? He's not a weak guy, but he can't, the woman controls him, right? And why doesn't he rebel? Why don't those Pakistani guys go straight to the police and say, you know, I am in a weak position, I'm a slave right now, you know? That's what these Pakistani guys are, definitely modern slaves, no question about it. Read the article in the link below. I mean, it's a brutal situation, and this is the kind of stuff I think, you know, guys like Ronin man should help, you know? I mean, who cares these guys are from Pakistan? This is the situation kind of all guys can get into. And I know many guys who are silently slaves to women, and they won't admit it. And often, like, you know, the situation can even be worse than that. The woman can be cheating, she can be fat as fuck, she can gain a ton of weight, she can make fun of him, she can belittle him. I mean, there's even extreme situations where girls have lovers, and, you know, just, I've heard all kinds of situations where, you know, the guy is just absolutely humiliated and beyond belief. And this is actually a common thing, like when guys get divorced, is for, I've seen this a bunch of times, I'm sure you guys have too, is after they get divorced, the first thing she does, she gets the house, and then the first thing she does is have another guy over there fucking her in the house that he bought. That's a classic, that's a favorite of girls after breakup, after divorce, is like having sex in his marital bed, you know, with the house that he bought. And the reason why is just purely shame. It's just to shame the guy, because the women know that shame is like it's the big thing for guys. It's the most difficult thing, is shame. Guys just can't deal with it. Shame is it's so difficult for guys to deal with, you know, that guys will stay in slavery when they know they're in slavery, right? You know what I mean? It's not like a question of are those Pakistani guys in slavery? They're total slaves, right? Their passport's been taken, they're working all the time, all their money's taken, they're utterly humiliated, they don't have any friends, any life, and no freedom, and all their money goes to their wife, well, wife on paper, whatever the fuck that is. I don't even know what that is. The word wife even doesn't mean much to me. I guess I would say post-contract. What do you call that? Party, you know, party B or something. We should call wife party B, you know. Party B in the state contract takes all his money and makes him work day and night, and obviously under the under the what do you call it, like the hammer of being deported, because the minute he doesn't make her happy, obviously she's going to deport him, right, and report him to the police and all that, right? So that's kind of that's slavery. And even that situation, guys cannot deal with it. They can't even go to the police. You guys, we got to get our shit together. I really think this is lame. I really think, like, guys, I think this is part of the MGTOW movement. I'm just gonna put it out there, and I hope Paul Elam hears this, and you know, all the other guys I listen to and respect, everybody from Angry MGTOW to MGTOW 101, Diana Davidson, Girl Writes What, you know, it's you guys, like, this is what is controlling guys. It's women, but how the lever they control guys is using is shame, and we are a part of that. We're allowing shame to control us. You know, we are allowing, this is our weakness, and whenever you have a weakness, a predator will take advantage of that weakness and will basically milk you for all they can when they see that weakness. You know, if they see a weakness in you, you know, this is kind of like I was talking about before. Churches, you know, tell young guys not to have sex when they're, well, they say not to masturbate when they're like in junior high and late elementary school. Don't masturbate. And then as soon as they're old enough to start, the average guy to start having sex, let's say 13, then they start saying premarital sex is the worst thing, right? So they're basically controlling you because it's the thing that you want the most, right? You want sex the most, right? And so naturally, they're going to control you with that. That's a weakness, right? They see this weakness that you really want, and evil people will take advantage of that weakness and use that as the exact lever to control your life, right? So with the churches, it's desire to have sex and orgasm, which is a very natural thing. Orgasm for guys is very natural and healthy. You know, this is one thing I disagree with a lot of MGTOWs, is they talk, you know, they don't talk about sex enough, you know, and I've even been accused of talking about sex too much, but I have just started, guys. I think sex is a super important part of being a guy, and no one talks about sex in MGTOWs. It's almost like it's gay or something. You're not supposed to talk about sex. Hey, that's bullshit. You got to have sex, man. I'm gonna do an episode on this soon, and your mind is gonna melt on my sex episode. Trust me. it's gonna be very, very, very out of the box thinking for sex. But once you're out of the box enough as a MGTOW, where you've turned your back on the standard way of living and acting, you open yourself up for new ways of thinking about traditional things like sex. So I want to bring those ideas to possibilities for non-traditional relationships and ways to get off that you probably haven't even thought about. You know, once you break away from society, it opens you up in many ways to try new things and to think about new things and new, like, paradigms for relationships with. Now you call them relationships, or you call them getting fucked or getting laid. But let's just call it getting boned. You know, new ways to think about getting boned and getting off. So yeah, so shame is what is the thing. Shame of either, you know, not looking like a man, not looking like strong enough. People think you're gay, you're a flamer. You know, there's all these kind of things. These are the things that people use to control you, and you can take it all the way to your grave. I remember my uncle. I come from a very, very tough, you know, family background of poor people from Finland, from the countryside in Finland, and these guys were very tough. And in my family, and this is the truth, when they get sick, like let's say they get some kind of disease, what they do is they go out in the woods and they shoot themselves in the head with a hunting rifle, and because they don't want to cause trouble to the family, they don't want to waste the family's money, they want to leave the money for the family. They know it's kind of over anyway, so I kind of understand it. It's kind of like, hey, it's just going to be a miserable year, 2, or whatever till I'm gone, so let's just end it on a good note, say goodbye to everybody, and then go out in the backyard and finish it, right? So I kind of understand it. It's the way my family actually operates. But the thing is that this is also shame-based, because admitting that you have cancer, admitting that you have this, is very difficult for people, guys in my family, not girls, guys in my family. So I'll give you an example. My uncle, I went to see him when I was, when I finished, when was it? 1987. 1987. I had some money. I was making a lot of changes in my life, and I went out to, I wanted to go and see my family in Minnesota, my relatives. So I decided I was going to do it, and my grandpa sent me some money, which was pretty cool, and I went out there. And so when I got out there, across from my grandpa's house is my uncle's house. And so my mom told me, she said, you know, so-and-so uncle has cancer, but he doesn't like to talk about it. He won't talk about it. And so, but I was young, you know, this is back in '87, and I just, you know, I don't know, I guess I couldn't process it that she was serious about it, you know. It's like, yeah, he's got cancer, but he can't, you know, doesn't want to talk about it. You know, I was like, to me that made no sense, because when I have a problem, I don't mind talking about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it, right? So there's a turtle's head there. There's a bunch of turtles in this park. They're pretty cool, and some big fish too. It's funny that all these parks in Thailand are full of life. There's huge lizards in here, massive lizards, and they're carnivorous too. And then they have all these turtles and some big carp too, some pretty decent sized carp. And I'm pretty sure they have what are they called? I can't think of them right now, but the long snaky like things in here, because I've seen them move around. They might be carp, possibly be carp too, but either way. So back to my uncle. So I went out to Minnesota, and I went to see him. I went to his house, and I was in his kitchen, and I said, hey, you know, Mom said you have cancer, you know. And he looked at me, he goes, totally straight face, he says, who told you that? I don't have cancer, I'm fine. And I looked at him, and I was like, so for the first moment I thought, maybe I got the wrong uncle here, you know. Like, he said it so like casually, like, oh no, I'm fine, you know. And I was like, no, this can't be the guy. Like, he's not, you know, it doesn't jive like with what my mom said. He's gonna die, he's got cancer and he's dying. And so I said, no, mom told me, you know, she said you have cancer, but you don't like to talk about it. I was still young, you know. And then he was like, oh, whatever gave her that idea? That's not even the case at all. And you know, and I was like, oh, okay. So then when I got back home to California, I said, my mom, I said, hey, you know, so-and-so uncle, he doesn't, you know, I talked to him, which uncle was it? And she said, oh, it was him. And I said, well, he said he doesn't have cancer. And she said, yeah, that's why I told you, he doesn't talk about it. when I thought he doesn't talk about it, I kind of thought that was like publicly, or, you know, there was some kind of like ability to talk about it, but no. And then he died of cancer right after that. And so, you know, this is the way my family was raised. The guys only. The guys don't talk about weakness. They're too ashamed of talking about weakness. They're too ashamed of talking about cancer. It's the same thing in Japan. Guys will never admit they have cancer. That's why Aflac, American Family Insurance, has like 96% of the insurance market in Japan, because people can't admit they have cancer, especially guys. In Japan. So American family, American company, they don't mind having cancer insurance, and it's a big taboo in Japan. So they make tons and tons of money. Now Japanese companies are trying to get into it, but it's too late. The Aflac's got it totally like locked down. But it all comes from shame. It all comes from shame. Shame for guys of admitting they have a weakness, admitting that they can't control something, admitting that they're, you know what I mean, they're not on top of it, that they're not like totally in charge, and they have weakness. And this is like, you know, it's amazing. Like, guys will rather, as you can see with these Pakistanis, would rather live in slavery. I mean, to ruin their fucking lives, throw their whole lives in the shit can, rather than admit they have a weakness. Now, I know that's extreme, like I said, but that is part of being a guy. And I don't know what the answer is, you know, because I like I said, I come from a pretty tough family, pretty tough background, and these guys don't like shame. And like, I personally also kind of like to shoot yourself in the head and instead of give cancer treatment kind of a solution. That's kind of the way I think too. So, but you know, I really think we need to have a discussion about this, because girls are using this, women are using this to control guys. They know this is our weakness. So, you know, guys won't admit the girl's cheating on her. They won't admit that she's, you know, just doesn't love them anymore. They won't admit how bad that the girl treats them. You know, women will go on a TV talk show, talk about how bad their man is and everything. Dude, men talking about women, are you kidding me? They won't say a freaking word. Crickets. You know, the only way you find out how bad a guy's situation is if you go live with the guy, at least stay for a weekend at his house, and then you start to see, you know, oh my God, she controls every aspect of his life. And then you say, you know, this has happened to me before. I've stayed at guys' houses, and then afterwards I'm like, dude, like, you know, I mean, not for nothing, but I noticed that things are not so good at home, you know. And they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, things are not good, you know, what should I do, you know? They're just too ashamed. But at the same time, once they hear that you know, understand, and you're not out to shame them, you're not out to make them look bad, they're very open, and they want solutions, they want help. Guys basically want help but won't reach out for it. So what's the solution? What is the solution? I don't know what it is myself, but I'd love to hear your comments and what you think about guys and shame, whether it's shame or, you know, whatever it is, about all the different types of shame that we talked about. What kind of shame? I mean, it's shame that girls use against you, church uses against you, but I think most importantly, it's shame that you use against yourself. You know, we are our own worst enemies, you know, guys. You know, we can't deal with things that we don't know what to talk about, and then we enslave ourselves. You know, these Pakistani guys could go to the police anytime they wanted, and the police would do something. Now, of course, they're going to be deported, which is, you know, that's a physical thing that they don't want to happen, but it's going to happen because basically the system has no sympathy for guys. You know, so they're just going to say, oh, you're illegally here? Oh, thanks for telling us. Well, you're deported from Hong Kong and you can't come back. Right? That's what they would do. But, you know, at least they're not going to go to prison. You know, they'll get their passports back, and they just won't be allowed back in Hong Kong. So, but I mean, what are they ashamed of? These Pakistani guys, they're ashamed of their friends finding out. That's what they're back home, their friends and family. Because, you know, and I've seen this, I'll tell you, I got a lot of other stories about this too, because there are tons and tons of Chinese guys that go to America and fail out of school, and they're so ashamed that they never can admit it to their families, and so they go home and pretend like they actually graduated, like they succeeded in America. And guys will even, in fact, right before Chinese New Year, Twinjie, they will steal money. It's the biggest pickpocket time in China, because they'll steal money in Shanghai, for example, from guys, and then they will go home and pretend like they've had a big success in Shanghai, and then treat everybody to a big dinner. It's a big face thing, and so Japanese people too, when they go to, like, especially guys, they'll go to America. I got a friend, Japanese guy. His son went to America and failed out of school, and he would not tell his family forever. And his dad just like didn't know what was up and was really worried about him, and flew over to America, and then, you know, brought him back to Japan, because the guy had failed, but he just was too ashamed. He was too ashamed to talk about it. And you know, Japanese guys, when they get fired from their jobs, you know what they do? This is like super common. This is like Japanese suicide. It's just like, for men, is like insane. When you hear about suicide in Japan, just think man, okay? And then you got 99. You got most of the suicide. It's guys committing suicide. Why? They get fired, okay? And the economy's not good in Japan right now, right? So what do? This is exactly what they do. They get fired, okay? So let's say it's a Monday. They go to work, they get fired. Well, Tuesday, what do they do in the morning? What do they do Monday night? They don't say anything to the family. Tuesday, they wake up, take a shower, shave, put on their suit, get in their car, and drive to near their office. They park in a parking lot, and then they either sit in the car all day, or they go sit in an internet cafe or a coffee shop with their briefcase and their suit, and then they come home at night, take a shower, tadaima, okaidi, all the things Japanese say when you get home from work. And then what do they do Wednesday? Same thing, wake up, get dressed, go to quote unquote work, and then they do this until basically the ruse becomes, you know, too hard to ignore, and you know, like it's paycheck time, and like, where's the paycheck? And what the guy is so ashamed, what does he do? Well, there's two things he can do. The most common thing for guys to do in Japan is to stretch it out as long as possible. So they can say, oh, the company this, they can make excuses, blah, 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 blah. And the women don't pick up on it because it's like, they could care less about their husbands. They're just waiting for the check, but they're not, you know, it's like they're not worried about it. You know, the check's gonna come. Well, then when it finally gets to the point where the women start cornering them, like, where's the money? Where's the money? The guys will do one of two things. One is to buy a charcoal barbecue and then drive their car up into the mountains and then have a barbecue inside their car until they die of asphyxiation. That's the most common way to commit suicide in Japan. And there's even books about it. There's books about how to commit suicide, and guys commit suicide at an insane rate in Japan. And it's all out of shame. It's out of shame because they got fired, they're ashamed, they can't admit it, they can't, you know, they can't do anything about it. And I know there's some women's group that pretend like they care about this, but it's complete BS, and it doesn't even address the issue at all, and doesn't even touch anywhere near what these guys need. And it doesn't even like understand the cause, right? That's why I'm making this, because shame is a fucking serious thing for guys. It is. And if you don't think it is, you're just kidding yourself. And if you're just a rare person, shame doesn't bother you, that's fine. But you got friends, you got brothers, you got dads, you got other people in your life who maybe are much more as robust as they might look. When it comes to shame, guys are weak, man. Guys are freaking weak. And so Japanese guys commit suicide with a barbecue. The other thing they do is they disappear. There's companies there, what they do is their whole job is to make you disappear. I forgot the name of the company in Japanese, but it's very popular. And so people, I think it's like, I forgot how many people every year in Japan disappear. It's a really significant portion, and it's all men. It's a 99% men. I think it's like, I don't know. I read the article. I don't want to say a number because then if it's wrong, it's going to look bad. But it's a huge number, and it's only in Japan. It's this disappearing company thing. I'll put a link below. I'll find the link. Give me a little time on this one, but I'll find the link and put it below. But basically what they do is they pay the companies and they get a job and they go to Sanya in Tokyo, or they go to, I forget the name of it in Osaka, but there's an area in Osaka where you can be a day laborer, and basically nobody needs to see your ID. You know, you can live, you don't need a deposit to live somewhere. You can pay by it at night. And they go and they live in these places, and it's all men. And I've been there. I've been to both these places many, many times. So I know these guys, and I have friends who volunteer there to give them food and to deliver lunches and things like that, working in the community centers there. So I know these very, very well. There's two main areas, and one is in Tokyo, one is in Osaka. And these areas are full of guys who've disappeared. So they disappeared from their families don't know where they are. Nobody knows their real name anymore. And all they do is survive. Often they turn to drink, and they drink heavily, and because they're so ashamed. They lost their families, they're anonymous, living anonymously, and you know, it's in Japanese society, it's very, very bad. And Western guys too. Nobody is immune from this one, you guys. This one permeates. It permeates males, and it's something we need to talk about. But yeah, so these guys basically commit suicide, essentially, the Japanese guys, because they live very short lives. Once they've disappeared, and they don't have anybody, you know, that loves them, around them, or knows them, they feel, of course, very lonely. They drink a lot. There's, you know, it's just a miserable situation. Obviously, there's more crime in these areas, and you know, it's very down and miserable. In fact, in Osaka, at the area I'm talking about, we were walking around there. It's not even on the maps. If you go to Osaka, you won't even see it on the frickin' maps. So during the Tokyo Olympics, there's events in Osaka, you can't find the area. It's not on there. It doesn't exist, but it's there. and it's all guys. And it's all guys who've disappeared and full of shame. And so, of course, they live very short lives. And I was down there, and we were walking around, and there was, the thing that shocked me is the guys are so poor, you know, they don't have any money, and they actually sell shoes, you know, by the right and left. So basically you don't have to buy a pair even. You can just buy a right shoe or a left shoe. If your right or left is worn out, you can buy the other one before the other one to save a little bit of money. And you know, that's kind of the situation that these guys live in. It's basically just living hand to mouth, total shame, anonymous. And the thing is, it's not a happy anonymous life, you know. I kind of like am a proponent of something very similar, in the sense that a lot of things that are around guys just hold them down, you know, and make them, you know, like slaves of some kind of system. So I am a fan of disappearing in a way, not exactly like these Japanese guys do, but breaking away from anything that keeps you in slavery or in a miserable situation, and admitting it, you know, not being full of shame like these guys are, but actually coming out, you know what I mean, and saying, hey, I'm in this bad situation. I'm being screwed over. I've let myself, you know, this is my solution, is I would say, is admit where you're at, you know, much like an alcoholic does. An alcoholic who comes into like a 12-step group, they admit that their drinking has gotten out of hand, and they start to, you know, admit the situations that they kept privately and secretly. And I think the same thing for guys who are in a shameful situation, whether it's a girl cheating on them, a girl beating them up, a girl making them, maybe like purposely shaming them in public. I've had friends that the girls like yell with them in public and say like disparaging things to them in public, and the guys are so ashamed they'll do anything to make her shut up. And believe me, these girls, they extract the maximum benefit. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'll get that fucking handbag, right? We're gonna go on that trip, right? You know, whatever. You know, they go for the guttural. You know, if two girls fight, if two guys fight, let's say a guy has a huge wound on his leg, right? And two guys fight. You watch guys fight, and the guy will never hit the other guy in the sore spot. But you watch girls fight, and the first thing she'll do is let nails straight into the wound, because they see that as obviously the weak spot, and that's how you win a fight, is just going straight for the weak spot. But if you watch guys fight, guys have this sense of pride and right and wrong and stuff when it comes to these things, and they might be a brutal fighter, but they will also avoid that sore on the guy's leg, you know. It's just, you know, same as kicking in the nuts. It's not the first thing guys do. Girls, it's the first thing they do. Kick a guy in the nuts, right? It's like, yeah, that's how you win, right? Kick a guy in the nuts, right? So it's all about shame, and it's about these are all different aspects of it. So I'd love to hear what you think, and thanks for listening to my thoughts on it. This is a very heavy subject. There's no simple answers like, oh, man up, buck up, here's the one answer that solves everything, because guys are committing suicide over this. You know, this is no joke. This is not like this is not like, hey, I got the simple answer here. I wish I did. I wish there was. But I think what can actually help guys are intelligent, and if they're allowed to speak about it, they can find their own solution and basically fix their own situation by looking at how different guys handle these difficult situations, and how smart guys have been able to be honest about it and break out of something that is capable of killing them, right? Shame is capable of killing you. So thank you very much. It's a heavy topic, and I know that, you know, let's this is a heavy MGTOW, and going MGTOW, there's a lot of layers of the onion. Some of them are very awesome, and some of them are very difficult to confront, and I don't think real MGTOWs are afraid of any of them, you know. So thanks for listening to the end there, and please like and share if this makes you know, hits any kind of a spot for you. I'd love to hear your comments. All right, guys, have a good one.